Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. To Midnight's Edge After Dark. It is spring break most places, Easter week, whatever you want to call it. We're celebrating it all week long. We don't care. We have Price of Reason with you. How are you doing? With us for you.
With us.
With us for you. You're with us though.
I'm here, yeah. And I think a little better than the last time I was here, so that's
I'm
already
glad. You sound better.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah, you were under the weather last time, but no, you're sounding pretty good and glad to have you here. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I'm glad as well, and it's good to be here again.
And we also have with us our fellow Canadian. We can't get away with doing a show without at least one Canuck. So we have CC Karaoke here. How you doing?
I'm glad to be the Canadian representation.
Is that a racial slur? Can I say that?
I don't care. You can call me a ginger if you want.
No, I said Canuck.
Oh, yeah, you can call me that too.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a slur.
Double the nut.
They might both be. It just depends who you ask.
Well, gingers have become extinct. Like, that's the thing. Like,
yeah, I used to be one.
Now you've been race swapped. You're black.
Well, yeah.
Well, gingers are kind of like the new black people.
Ginger is the new black. Is that what you're going?
I was going to say a word that kind of rhymed with the old one. And we're in trouble. That's a perfect segue to Nick. One of my partners in crime, who never tells me to stop, who's always egging me on.
Oh, I always want you to keep going. Ooh. But hello, Tom. Hello, CC. Hello, Price. Hello, chat. Hello, ever so awesome.
Hope you had a good day.
I've had a good busy day. I've missed being on the YouTubes of the world. I've been off for a week, so it feels good to be back. I see our wrench swingers, the War Monkeys, the Gods, the D-Buds. Thank you for your wrench service. I heard a trailer came out, and I know a movie came out as well, so I'm catching back up into the world.
Sorry, I was on another page there. Well, we're glad to have you here as always, and I think we have a few more people that will be coming in as we roll into the show here.
Yes.
Yes, we've got some regulars in the chat as well. Let's say hello to. We got Jeremy, we got War Monkey, we got Batman in the chat, we got Lombardi 1969, we got Zachariah here, we got Polar Red, National Disgrace. You're not a national disgrace to us though. We've got D Bud Martin swinging around a wrench, sharing all those links. Click on those and check out the boys if you haven't already. It wears Andre. Andre is probably going to be sleeping before too long here. But yes, this is Midnight's Edge After Dark. This is where my little corner of the internet is. Okay, Goddess wants to know what's up with the J clip. It's just something we kind of passed around and just started playing. It's for fun. Because he just kind of stares into nothingness while he was reading something on a stream. He gets caught doing that quite often, I guess.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, for the guy who asked that in the chat, if Nicolas Cage has his movies where he can go full Cage, After Dark is where Tom could go full Tom Connors.
That's correct. Pinocchio got a wooden deck. Hell yeah! That little pecker's wood all the time. What? Sorry.
See if we can get Nick to keel over from laughing.
Oh God, no. That would be bad.
Oh, Toxic Tuesday's canceled, everybody. It's canceled. I couldn't even make it through Need.
Should be in every movie.
Yeah, I can actually see him wanting that too. Oh.
And you know what else I found out? Midgety is a word.
Midgety. Ooh, that's a fancy.
It means
one.
to be short with somebody. I kid you not. That's one of the meanings of it.
Does it appear in the dictionary? I
guess it's in the Urban Dictionary. I don't know about the real dictionary though.
To be fair, I've said it before. I actually, any little person I've met, they usually they tell me that Barnum and Bailey or something invented that word, and they get very offended and stuff like that. That's why I switched to little person, because apparently that's not offensive.
I don't know about that. They may have been
attend a midget wrestling event where midget wrestling is the specialty.
To be honest, if I had to guess with and I'm usually pretty good at guessing this stuff when it comes to language shit, midget already probably was a word, and they probably just adopted it for little people, because I mean it's used in so many other ways, so it's been less used more recently because of the stigma, I believe. But if I had to take a wild swing in the dark, I highly doubt it was a word that was made up by Barnum and Bailey.
That's what a little person told me, and in any case,
they may be right, but I doubt it.
I do my best, you know what I mean? I want to be a good person, and if people are offended,
Tootsie Rolls and other things, it does mean more than just that. Like midgety even has more meanings than that. But yeah, I just discovered it because I was just like, is that even a word? Out of the blue.
I mean, I maybe in an urban setting, urban dictionary. Yeah. Not an urban setting. You know what I'm trying to say.
Oompa Loompa is worse. Yes. Do not call. Oh, God. Little person hates it when you do that.
Yeah.
They will kick you in the shins.
You know, I don't even know how we got to talking about this, but, you know, at least at that time, they gave at least at the time of Oompa Loompas, they gave them roles. Now they don't even give them any roles anymore.
Yeah, I don't like that.
If I had a midget, I'd give him midget Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, dude, I want a midget Tootsie Roll.
I'd be like, do a trick, you get a Tootsie Roll.
Damn it, I wish I had a midget right now. I do a trick for one.
I feel like I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
I have an obsession with midgets. Don't worry about it. I actually have a long history of a midget jokes and stuff. Carlos Seya or Seja? I'm sorry if I'm. How would you say that?
Yeah,
Seya, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing.
Phonetically, I have no idea, and I really apologize. But you have become a member, and I appreciate that, Carlos. That's awesome. We love having members here, especially from everywhere and anywhere. So yes, thank you for being a member.
It's pretty gay.
That's right. Mini midget. That's like it's the same thing twice, basically. Unless it was a really small midget. Like somebody who's like comics division size.
Comics isn't even that short. Like he's short, sure.
I know.
But like there are people, let's just say, within our corner of the internet who are apparently not only the same height as him, some that are maybe even shorter than him.
So I'm wondering, maybe this is where Price might be a little lost. Have you not seen my Christmas video?
Oh, I love that video.
I'm not sure.
What?
I'll have to send that
you
to you.
Haven't seen it?
It's 5 minutes long, so I'm not playing it now.
Everything makes sense now. I was wondering why you were like.
Yeah, he's like, I'm like, I
confused.
think that's the problem is he doesn't know that like, and another thing is I want to make a whole studio where we do nothing but remake movies, but with midgets. And everything is like the size of the midgets though, right? Like it's not, you know, and if there were midgets in it, they're played by regular sized people. That's the only exception, right? But like I want Ghostbusters, but with midgets.
By the way, I kind of Googled, and I don't know if this is true, but it originated in the 1800s in these kind of, when they had these kind of shows that were circus-like.
It could have been true then, maybe.
They were labeled sort of as freaks and stuff like that. So I guess that's probably why,
maybe.
You know, today it's...
I just wonder if the word wasn't adopted. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, I could be wrong. I would like to start a midget genre. That's what I'm trying to do. And we have Scribe Light here. How you doing, Scribe?
Doing all right. So you want to make like real Tiny Toons?
Yes.
Tiny
like,
Toons, so good.
You know, just like Dirty Dancing, but with midgets.
I mean, I think that like I was saying before, little people don't get a lot of work now in Hollywood because they've gone so kind of woke that they went the Hollywood that they've become full circle into not even giving them work anymore. So if you did a whole studio giving them roles, I think they'd be happy.
I would just laugh for 2 hours.
Tom is going to make midgets great again, and it's going to be great.
They don't even have to do anything.
Did you ever see Tiptoes with Gary Oldman?
Yes, and that is hilarious as shit.
Yeah,
it's for all the wrong reasons. But no, like think about it. You're watching RoboCop, but it's just all midgets. They're doing the same thing. They're not acting like it's anything different or weird. That's why I'm laughing at it, because he's just like, you know, coming up and like, dead or alive, you're coming with me. And he doesn't act like he's a midget, right? It's all the world is like a little motorcycle, little gas station, all that stuff, and the guy's like, "We killed you," you know. And he's just
well, I mean, you would almost instantaneously destroy the remake factory as it is if you started doing it like that.
I know. I would kick everybody's ass.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even have to do anything. It's just like literally do the same movie. Just like tell the costume lady, "You've seen the movie, right? Just make all those costumes in miniature size." Tell
same script,
people,
same script and everything.
Everything. Like you're acting like it's the regular world, but that's where I'm putting people to work because you have to make mini props.
Oh,
you got to make mini sets.
I want to see Tiny Tanic.
That's it. You're getting me. Even better yet, we'll do another department that has like Little Debbie Does Dallas.
Yes. Little Debbie's, oh my god, cupcakes everywhere.
I have a whole genre here figured out. Okay, like,
I could tell.
I'm gonna put little people to work and the industry to work at the same time. Okay, it's a win-win-win for everybody. And you know who's gonna be the most pissed? Peter Dinklage.
I was about to say Peter Dinklage. Yeah.
You're like, well, you can't be doing that.
I don't think he can be in Debbie Does
fine because
Dallas.
all the other cool midgets will make up for Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage actually, I was told that he doesn't like little people.
Well, that's
he's a total jerk.
Well, he's a jerk. And that's not because he's he's a midget. He's a jerk because he's a jerk.
Right. No, but it's like one of those people that he kind of, I don't want to use a word, I don't want to try to be a clever pun thing, but I guess like he thinks no matter what I say, it's going to sound bad, but he thinks he's like bigger than them. You know what I mean? Like he's like, you know what I mean? Like he's better. He doesn't need to be, yeah, like, you know, when people go to him and say there's a movie, if he finds out there's other little people in it, apparently this is what I was told by little people that he doesn't like that, meaning there can only be one person like that in the movie, and that's him, and he doesn't quite see himself in that light or something like that.
Just remember, when it comes to Peter Dinklage, if there's one thing I know he'll never do, he will never rise above it.
Oh, okay. All right, we got to move on here. I'm getting too wrapped up into this. We've also got Jay, who gifted, holy crap, 5 memberships. Thank you so much for that, Jay. Olaf has also been a member for 31 months, and he's a wrench. Thank you, Olaf, and I'm sure he's heading over here from Mr. H Stream, and it looks like we're getting all the folks from Mr. H Stream. Thanks for joining us here.
Hello.
Appreciate that. Sadie, you go lay down. You were just outside. Quit being a pain. Quit being a pain in the butt. So yeah, there's a few things going on today. There was a Bad Boys 4 trailer that dropped. We've been expecting this for some time now because it's been in the works. We also have some Pirates news we're going to talk about, and Ernie Hudson news. So let's Where do you guys want to begin? Let's start with the Bad Boys trailer. What do you think?
Well,
Didn't
might
Bad
as
Boys
well.
for Life already come out?
What's it come
Yeah.
out in June? No, Bad Boys 3, which is aka Bad Boys for Life, was in January 2020. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
They should have called that one Bad Boys Ride or Die and this one Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. This is
For
like a
life,
thing that
yeah.
bothers me, like Batman 2. Like it's like Batman 3 is Batman Forever. I'm like, why isn't it Batman 4?
You know, one of my biggest
I hate that
problems
when
with
they do
Batman
that.
Forever, as much as I love the movie, it ended at 2 hours. You don't get to call a movie Batman Forever and it has an ending.
Like the never ending story.
Yes, what
Yeah.
is that? Like this movie, it came out in 1995. I hate to say it because Val Kilmer, he's old age, but hey, you still owe us the movie, dude.
That's what Batman needed,
Boys.
Falcor.
I didn't hate Val Kilmer as Batman. I know that's a
didn't
weird
either.
thing to say. I
No,
didn't
he's
hate
all
him.
right.
Oh, dude, he was
Yeah, he's
fine.
okay.
It was an entertaining movie. It really was.
And I have to tell everybody here something very important. And Batman Forever, that is Nicole Kidman in her prime.
Well,
You're not wrong there. Pretty close.
I don't know.
too.
I think To Die For was her in her prime, but that might
I
just
didn't
be
like
me.
that movie, but
You didn't? No.
That was a
Look-wise,
downer of a
maybe.
movie. Yeah, how she
Oh yeah, of course it was a downer on murder.
in Batman Forever, whatever it is, it's more fun, you know.
she wants to jump Batman's bones.
Yeah, that adds to the
signal is
atmosphere.
not a beeper.
Ooh.
She wants to
I
snake
always
his
love
kitchen
that
sink.
line. It's like, no, Batman, it kind of is. That's what I always said to that. He's like, the bad signal is not a beeper. It's like, wait a minute. You should have said it's more like it's not a dating, whatever. At that time, they didn't have dating sites yet, but
Dating app, yeah.
But
they
to
didn't
be
have
fair,
dating apps in. But yeah,
To Die For and Batman Forever were released in the same year, so we're both right when we say that she was in her prime.
that is true.
We're not conflicting.
She was in like
I
two
guess,
big
yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Actually,
All
the,
right,
bat the bat signal was more like Batman and Gordon's personal Tinder.
Yeah, there you go. See, nobody's shipping them though. You hear that? No. Let's get into this. Bad Boys Ride or Die. I agree. Dumb name. But before we even get into this, because I think the only main reason we're watching this, because I think Nick is the only one who hasn't seen this yet. I don't know about you, Scribe, but
I haven't, no.
okay, so you two haven't seen it yet. The rest of us have. And the reason why Nick didn't see it yet is because of my tweet. We'll get into that a little bit here, but we'll just watch it. I'm sure. So if you're watching this on the replay and this just disappears, that's why. It's because Sony claimed it should be done by now, right? This is the first trailer. There's still more to come.
We had the Bad Boys 360 surround shot already. That should have ended.
Yes, that's where the trailer should have ended. I agree. Like we are getting twice as much trailer than we should be getting.
Every big set piece is in the trailer.
I think you're right. Well, let's keep going. I just wanted to break it up a little bit, but it's like, damn, because there's yet another bit in the trailer. Yeah, the funniest joke is the worst. Yeah,
the funniest thing in that trailer was trying to imagine Martin Lawrence keeping up with Will Smith in a running match in the woods or something.
I actually liked some of the bits in it, but it just overstays its welcome in the trailer. So I have a feeling that's what the movie's going to be indicative of too.
Yeah.
And we get the whole movie in the trailer, right? Like that's kind of what you were saying. That's what I said in my tweet too, and that's why Nick, you didn't watch it. So yeah.
Well, if you're so proud of that last bit that they're going to end the trailer with it, I have my doubts about the writing in general. I mean, that's the lowest hanging fruit possible. It's basically on the floor. It's so low.
After Andre's essay on remakes and franchise resurrection, I just can't. as the kids used to say, I look at this and I'm just like, no, guys, really find something else to do. And I'm saying, talking to the studios. I mean, they're getting the paycheck. Will Smith,
I hear you.
But it's just like,
but I mean, like clearly the better joke to end on would have been the joke they started with. That's the best joke.
Right.
In the whole, yeah.
I think that they're just very desperate and they're worried about Will Smith's image.
Yeah.
And I feel like if his image was in the place that it was pre-slap or whatever it was, there would have been a far less telling trailer. You would have seen a 360 shot, a few explosions, half a joke, and it would have ended. Yeah,
the Reba joke was not very good. It was
But
all right at first, but then it just went downhill from there. Like, yeah.
yeah, but
Reba.
I'm also saying that the whole trailer reveals so much. It's really they want to get you excited, and I think that like they're trying too hard.
Oh, I'm at this point where I think like some of the trailers we've gotten lately, I feel like once we start watching this movie, we're gonna be like, well, that was in the trailer. Well, that was in the trailer. Well, that was in the trailer. Is there gonna be one scene in this movie that's not in the trailer? And I have the feeling the answer is gonna be no. We can already kind of tell what the story is gonna be, right? This is kind of picking up off of the last film. The boss is set up. They need to clear his name. They use Will's kid. They break him out because they don't know how to act like, outside the law. And he's going to
Right.
help him. And he probably even knows who set him up in some way anyway, because that's the whole thing is, I hope I've really seen the last one. I mean, yeah, but because I enjoyed the last one quite a bit, actually, because I didn't care for the second one so much. And I loved the first one. I was saying this earlier on Mr. H's stream. Like when that movie came out, I'm like, this is our Beverly Hills Cop. Right, for our generation, it was, at least I felt like. And when the second one come out, I'm like, oh my god, this is every Michael Bayism you can shove into a movie, basically. And the third one at least kind of made the second film retroactively better, in my opinion. But yeah,
Wasn't Beverly Hills Cop the Beverly Hills Cop of our generation?
kind of. Well, I was 4 when that came out, right? So I looked at it more as like that was a movie for the generation just before us. But we enjoy it, yes. But like to me, like, Bad Boys came out when I was 14, 15 years old. The right movie, the right age to see it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that,
I shouldn't have been watching Beverly Hills Cop when I was 5 years old, Price.
I was, I
let's be
think,
real.
7. I was 7, and I think that my dad took me to the theater because he thought it was a comedy. And it's a great memory for me. You know what I mean? I think that we both thought it was great.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I mean, we were actually technically too young to see it when
In those days,
out.
things work differently. I think in those days,
Oh,
people
absolutely.
there was just a movie and you'd go see it, and there was either PG. There wasn't even PG-13 yet. You had PG and you had R. And in any case, if a parents were with a kid, they want to see a movie, they just go see it. I don't know. I think that I feel
In
like
some way,
people-
I guess what I'm saying is I was able to recapture what it could have been like at the age of that same age, seeing Beverly Hills Cop for the first time.
I guess
That was kind of, yeah.
I
Because to me, it was
accept
just
that.
amazing.
The
And I
first
walked out
one-
of it, and I said the dumbest thing I ever said when I walked out of the theater, and I still remember it to this day. I said, that director, that Michael Bay guy, he's going places. He's going to go somewhere. He's an excellent.
Hey, don't worry.
I eat my fucking words.
It was a good
all
movie.
happens. It happens.
Well, that was before he was Michael Bay. That's where some of the Bayisms were birthed, right? Like that's the first time we'd seen some of those kind of. I mean, not the first time we've seen it, but like in that way, right? Like the 360 shot. I mean, you go watch Bad Boys. It'll feel like a cliche now, but it's like you got to remember when that movie came out. The closest thing we had to it was Beverly Hills Cop.
Yep,
It was
Right?
fun.
That's true.
And I mean, it's a breakneck paced film, but now you watch it and feel, you're like, oh, it's just a regular movie. But when it came out, it was like
Oh,
You
it
got
was
cut
huge.
every
Dude,
30 seconds or less, and it's like just a bam, 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 bam in your fucking face movie. Because I remember seeing that the same day I saw Tommy Boy,
Mhm.
like Whiplash, because I love Tommy Boy because it was hilarious. Then I see Bad Boys, and it just blows my fucking socks off at how much fun of an action film it was. It's like, damn, we ain't seen a movie like this in a while. And then he follows that up with The Rock.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, love The Rock. Love that movie. No, it was a big. I remember when Bad Boys.
And then I went to see Armageddon.
Oh no.
Ah, Armageddon.
That one was a stinker.
It's one of those movies that I love because it's so bad.
It is entertaining with how bad it is. It is.
You love it because it's so bad, like the Power Glove, huh?
Yes. But all right, anybody else got anything to say about Ride or Die? Yeah, because I think the main point here is you were kind of hitting on Price that we can kind of move into. Otherwise, is I think it was a mistake putting this movie in June. I think they should have released Ghostbusters on this date. Sony was dumb, and they should have pushed this off either to Christmas or, dare I even say, next fucking year. Because as long as much distance as you can put between Will Smith and his bullshit right now, the better. I say. Because that's the saddest part of watching this is like I would give more of a shit, and I know this is how most of the normie people are probably feeling too, but I just don't like Will Smith anymore because of the way he's been cucked out in the media. I mean, it's most of it's his own fault at this point, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's not even only the slap. It was everything that was leading up to it for the past few years and all the stuff later. I mean, I feel bad now. I'm going to say something controversial, but a few years ago, I'm talking maybe 2-3 years ago, I would have to find the tweet, maybe more. I posted that I think that if Will Smith is smart, he divorces his wife right now at this moment. I just said it because there was some weird crap with her. This is like 3 years ago, whenever it was. And I'm telling you that if he would have taken my advice on that day, he would have been now a winner.
Oh,
I
yeah,
agree with you.
absolutely. I agree too as well. It's really, this is one of the things that I think has done the worst outside of like social media, but also these award shows. The mystique has been absolutely taken away from these actors so bad that even when you see them, even like actors who are entertaining, who are good at their roles, good at their craft, like Will Smith, I did enjoy a lot of the movies he was in. The damage to him has been so done that when you look at what you see in this trailer, even the parts that maybe could say you're more preferable towards, you can't help but think of the guy outside of the movie, not him being in character. And this is something that Hollywood needs. If they're going to want to figure out how they're going to, get to the other end of this in this, crazy situation that they are in with the bombs and the ideology and pretty much the 800 other problems you got going, they need to really dial down on the personal life of celebrities, because we're never going to be able to be in the element of a movie, no matter how believable it is, if this keeps going.
No. Well, he effectively emasculated himself with his personal life and it coming out, and by doing that, like somebody's in the chat said, he destroyed his own aura. Because I remember growing up, I first heard of Will Smith, and parents just don't understand. He's a rapper and everything else. Then he got his TV show. It was almost like you're following along, and I felt growing up like I was in a sort of tangential way growing up along with him and watching his.
He kind of was our movie star, yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of, and you're kind of you're both watching his advancement into media, but you're also it also almost felt like you were in on the joke of just how lucky this guy was, and you almost like were rooting for him because he just kept having success after success after success.
Well, he was always that nice guy image and stuff.
Yeah, and then but then over the last several years,
he had action covered. He had the comedy covered. I remember friends of mine when I lived in the city, because Will Smith was hitting off during like the Jordan days in the NBA. And I remember a lot of my friends. It didn't matter if they're white, it didn't matter if they're black, they were Hispanic. Everyone had a little like Will Smith impersonation that they did from some role that they liked, because they thought he was fun. They thought he was funny. He was such a likable guy.
Well, I was even one of the poor bastards who bought the Mike Tyson album.
Yeah, I remember.
I have all of his albums. I was there since, Fresh Prince first started. Like, I was big into like music back when I was younger anyway. So like and I got it. Will Smith, I liked him even though he was it was like, here's the thing about him. It was almost like you were embarrassed to say I liked his stuff back then because he wasn't one of the more hardcore rappers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't until guys like Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer come around that it was actually kind of cool to be into like Will Smith. Because you had Curtis Blow and all the other hardcore rap, like NWA and all those guys coming in, 2 Live Crew. And then you got Will Smith doing what was equivalent of like Disney rap, right? At that time. And then he does the Fresh Prince, and he does do some other smaller acting roles to start to build him up. But you're right. Like, what you've seen them do is blossom from being like a joke, and this is kind of where Scribe, I think, was coming from. Kind of a joke in this sort of way to being a real force to be reckoned with. And Bad Boys was the first time that happened, because he did some other smaller roles, and then Bad Boys came on the scene, and that was a pretty big hit for him. And then next thing you know, he does, Independence Day and Men in Black in a row. Like, that dude owned the 4th of July for the 90s for the longest time.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And people forget that this movie also came out around July. I think I saw it on like July 7th, but it was right around the same time as the 4th of July. So like, it was this thing where Will Smith was kind of like owning that date for the longest time. And then Wild Wild West ended that reign. But I mean, you guys got to remember, and I think it was, oh God, I wish Script is here because he'd remember who said it, but William Goldman, I think it was, who said, Will Smith is the last movie star. And he was right. I mean, you could make an argument for Chris Pratt, but even Chris Pratt, I don't think could sell a movie on his own, right? He's just that popular guy you plug into things, it seems like, most of the time. But
the first Bad Boys movie was such a sort of surprise when it comes to Will Smith. People forget, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't even top billed in that movie.
No, Martin was.
Martin was
Yeah.
the top build. He was the hot, guy that's more hot, and Will Smith was just kind of the second guy. But it ended up
He was playing straight to Martin, is what he was doing. Yes.
right, but somehow it completely changed everybody's image of him. He's cool. He's running around. Even maybe that kind of Michael Bay style helped. All
It
these
did.
cool
It
shots.
totally did.
He's walking around with guns. He's shooting. Something like he looked like a viable action star, and it really changed everything, that movie, for him.
He needed this R-rated movie to help his image, because the only other thing he had done that was remotely adult before this was 6 Degrees of Separation, and nobody saw that.
Isn't that some
Nobody
weird
saw
thing
it.
that he's kisses dudes or something? Or
He's gay. He plays a gay guy in it, but it's based on the play, so like it is what it is. That's not even the like. If you see it,
I'm not saying that they
yeah, I mean that's another reason why I say this gay shit is like it's always been there. You just didn't watch those movies. That's why. But yes, Will Smith, Donald Sutherland's in it. Channing or not Channing. What's her name?
Channing Tatum.
Not Channing Tatum. The chick from Grease. What the hell's her name?
I have a confession.
Stockard Channing. Stockard Channing.
I have a confession. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just running the cast.
So basically, after Bad Boys 1 or whatever it was, I think that movie, it was going to be on one of those HBO or whatever it is, and I'm talking years ago. I'm like, oh, cool, let's see what Will Smith does here, and then like I press play, and I'm like, what is this? it was not Bad Boys 1. It was a very different type of movie.
You mean you saw 6 Degrees, or you saw the
yes,
old Bad
yes.
Boys?
After seeing Bad Boys 1, at some point that movie was going to be on TV on HBO or one of those things, and I didn't know anything about it, and I just saw like, a movie with Will Smith. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be cool. He's going to be funny. It's going to be badass. I press play or whatever. I put the channel on, and then not that there's anything wrong with that, but he's like kissing dudes and doing all this stuff. I'm like, what is this movie? He doesn't seem cool at all here.
Well, yeah, no, it showed. Yeah, it showed he had dramatic talent. He could do. I mean, 6 Degrees of Separation is a really interesting. It's based on a true story about a guy who impersonated Sidney Poitier's son.
Yep.
And like conned a bunch of people, and we've seen that in different things before. But yeah, no, it showed his range that he could actually do drama. And
I was disappointed, to be honest, with the movie. It wasn't what I.
Well, I can imagine if you don't go in expecting that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Surprise.
Yeah, because it is definitely not. And then the cover, and like if you see the cover on the video, doesn't do that justice. Like it sells it like it's some weird fun comedy or something like that. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
No. like described it exactly what it was. Like, and if you know what it is going into it, it is a really different performance to see out of Will, especially at that time, because you guys got to understand, he was so embarrassed after the first few episodes of the show, because if you watch those first few episodes, you catch him miming the other people's lines. Because he was so worried about not getting his lines right that he would memorize the entire fucking script, not just his lines. So he was literally like, when Uncle Phil would be like, well, that's enough of that, he'd actually be miming that along with him, waiting for his line to come in. And they kept catching him doing that. So he's like, okay, I got to take some acting classes and learn not to do this shit and actually learn. So he like seriously took it so seriously that he needed to challenge himself. And that's what 6 Degrees of Separation was a huge challenge upon himself, more so that he could try and do something like this. And it totally took him out of his element of everything he'd done before with the whole, just the performance itself, the gay element, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job. I mean, given his position at the time and given our societies it was at the time, it was a really big risk for him to do a role like that. Because if he fell flat on his face doing that, but like I say, it reminded me a little bit of.
The critics loved him for that, actually.
Oh yeah, like Jim Carrey, one of his early roles, believe it or not, he was in a TV drama called Doing Time on Maple Drive, where he played like
I've seen
brother
that
or something.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was I think it was one of his it might have been after Duck Factory, but it was a really serious like drama role and not very Jim Carrey at all.
Yeah, it was actually closer to In Living Color, because I remember they re-repeated it, or whatever you want to call it, when he became more famous. Because I remember that's when I saw it, because they were banking it all on Jim Carrey being in it. Yeah.
But it's a small part in a little TV
he's
movie,
got a small little part in it. He's like the brother or whatever in the movie, but yeah.
He was also in Peggy Sue Got Married as Nicolas Cage's best friend.
Well, him and Nick Cage were good friends. Yeah, and they still are, as far as I know. But yeah,
That's a
And,
weird thing to see.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's how he got in the movie, I guess. Him and Clint Eastwood too. Clint Eastwood always liked him. And it
Mm.
was because he heard that he did the best impression of him. So I guess one day they were at a party or something like that. And this is before
Yeah.
Jim was even that big. And Clint's like, I heard you do an impression of me. And Jim fired back, yes, I do. And he loved it. So like he put him in he's in the background of, or he's in Pink Cadillac. He's in the background as a comic. He's in, of course, Deadpool is the more prolific one, is the Axl Rose stand-in in the beginning.
Oh,
of
that's
the
right.
film.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's another Clint Eastwood movie he's in. I might be wrong, but like, yeah, so him and Clint had a good relationship too. And yeah, so like, yeah, it's just funny how those kind of things happen. But anyway, that's far away from the mothership.
No, but back
Yeah.
to what you were saying about trailers. You were saying that in this one, all the parts of the movie that are interesting are already in the trailer. But in Ghostbusters, what was weird was there was so many parts that weren't in the movie, but actually appeared in the trailer, which is really odd.
Well, and that's my theory on that, is that this is a cobbled cut of like 2 or 3 different test screened versions of a 2 hour and a half, 2 hour and 45-minute version of a movie. Because there's clearly bits and pieces missing here. And I think some of it, especially if they weren't intending to have it be, you know, the whole gay ghost thing, that I think they're missing that would have helped with that. Because, yeah, I've made my arguments other places, and we're not going to get into it. But we are going to talk a little Ghostbusters here in a little bit. So,
No, I was just referring to the trailer that really showed so much that wasn't in the movie that it was kind of weird.
yeah, no. But yeah, this. Well, and again, we'll have to wait and see what does wind up in the actual movie when it's all said and done. But I think this trailer just gave away way too much of the plot. That's my problem.
And the plot is flimsier than usual. The fact they already used that card of killing the captain, which in and of itself is a trope. They've already used that in the previous one.
And now they're extending it. Yeah.
Right. Now bringing him back via a video that he wants to clear his name after he's already gone. You know, that's kind of, I don't know. It's taking that trope to a whole new level. The trope is already weak to begin with.
Well,
but you know,
the only thing I'll give it a pass is I think they were kind of planned. Like, I think 3 and 4 were kind of planned to be like, they were already talking about a part 4 on the making of part 3, and part 3, if you remember, kind of leaves off hanging to where, you know, there's, it's not exactly open-ended, but it's open-ended enough to where you knew they were going to kind of revisit this, or something was going to kind of, especially with him and his relationship. Yeah.
Was part 3 filmed before the slap or after?
Part 3 was way before. Part 3 was, believe it or not, the biggest film of, what was it, 2020 or 2021? I can't remember now. Whenever we shut down.
It came out before
it came out right before the shutdown. Yep.
When did the slap happen again? I can't remember these things.
That was last year's Oscars, not this year's. But
was it just last year?
No, I feel like it was.
It might have been the year before. You might be right.
It feels like yesterday. That's Will's problem.
Because I remember I think you're right, because I think we were on Slap Watch for the last one.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. At least 2 years
ago. And
then,
yeah, because there wasn't no jokes about it this year. So yeah. I think
all right.
I think it was maybe 1, but yeah.
Yeah. The lost years always screw me up in my mental.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't even know what day of the week it is half the time anymore.
If I see a trailer that has a time code of longer than about a minute and a half, I know it's going to be too much.
Well, and if it's if it's not here's the weird thing: we didn't get a teaser trailer at all for this. This is our first anything for this.
That's true. But either way, if the official trailer comes out and I'm looking at, I have to sit here for more than. Like what the perfect trailer used to be just like a minute long. Like they gave you all the setups and the teases, and they just
they used to only be like 2 minutes, at the most for the main.
At most, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the first 3 seconds of that 2-minute trailer would be the show the MPAA thing, and then the close.
There were some longer ones.
Technically, there was, but I do see his point. Scribe is right, and the other 1.5 minutes was actual footage of the movie.
Then again,
I get suspicious now. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, then again, I'm one of those where, if you guys don't even remember, like back in the 80s, like especially late 70s and early 80s, trailers were not very good. Like they were literally just scenes from the movie slapped together, usually without any kind of narration. And they would give away the entire movie sometimes. But back then, I feel like we were less worried about spoilers and stuff. Like I was kind of joking about it, because somebody come in Mead Radio talking about Godzilla being gay in the next movie. So I went off on this tangent, but I'm like, then some people were like freaking out saying something about spoilers. And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm just kidding. But even still, I think we're a little too worried about spoilers anymore. Because even back in the day, like movies were good, whether they were good or not. We knew everything about them going into them most of the time. Like I had the comic and I had the novel and I had all that shit going into it, the Topps cards. So I kind of knew everything about every movie. So I just don't get this sometimes. Sorry.
My favorite trailers tell us absolutely nothing except like there's three trailers I can think of that I love the most. The first one was one of the earliest trailers for The Fifth Element. It was just this star field and this whispering or something, and this
the 90s were the best trailer era.
Yeah, and it said it must be found. And I like at the time I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I need to find it too. I want to find it. The other ones I like. What I really want to have happen. I know this is going back a ways. You know of William Castle, who made the old Vincent Price movies and all those horror movies. Most of his trailers were just like a camera behind the scenes and him sitting there going like, "Hey there, I'm William
it was like
Castle."
the Hitchcock thing, yeah,
and I'm currently on the set of my new movie, and I think it's great. I think you should see it too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I'd be like, "You sold me." It's just like I don't know. I see that.
There's the trailers, like the original trailers were all like, "Come see the stupendous Gone with the Wind," blah 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 blah. You know, that kind of thing. That kind of traveled into the 50s. But then you had guys like Hitchcock and like you said, Castle, who started doing this whole like basically what Deadpool does now, right? Like it's the same kind of thing. It's you're not going to actually show us any of the movie, are you? But you're actually building the suspense and the and all kind of thing. Like you want to see one of the greatest trailers ever that doesn't show anything from the movie? Watch the trailer for Psycho. It's hilarious. Psycho.
Oh yeah, Psycho.
Hilarious, but it also sells you on the movie without showing you the movie. It's just I almost called him William Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock. He like starts out outside the motel and he's like, "Hello, I'm Alfred Hitchcock." He goes through the whole thing. He's like, "This is Bates Motel, and let me show you and give you a tour." And then he gives you a tour of things. He's like, "This is the bathroom, and I can't tell you what happens in here. Unspeakable." Exactly. You know, just like you know what I mean. Like he just does this whole little bit, and it's just amazing how he does it all. But
yeah. So if I see a trailer that's got a longer time code than about a minute and a half, I'm thinking, okay, they have to work really hard to rope me in, which means at least, again, I mean, maybe the trailer will prove me wrong, but usually when I see that, I go like, okay, they're going to have to throw a lot of stuff at me to make me convinced to see this, which means there must not be much there to begin with. That's my sort of thought on it.
In the 70s were kind of a mixed bag. You had some really good trailers and some were just kind of lame, lay there trailers, but like you had Jaws and Star Wars and some that had some pretty good trailers. In the 80s really kind of started amping it up a bit better as they got along. But then you also had ones like the Gremlins trailers, a good example of how piss poor some of these trailers were, because it really is just a bunch of scenes literally crammed together. And it's like they don't really give you anything other than like the whole movie without showing you the Gremlins. And then like then you get into the in a world where, you know, blah blah. Those were kind of like lame for a while, but then the best trailers were for movies that weren't always that great, but like you had the Godzilla campaign, you had the Independence Day campaign. Some of those campaigns I thought were amazing how they sold those films. But the Phantom Menace campaign did a really good job of selling that movie, because that really didn't give us much on that film. If you think about it, from what we saw in the trailer. I mean, we were all trying to think of what was in the movie, but we were wrong. But I think the only thing we got right was Qui-Gon was going to die.
Well, the soundtrack gave that away, like a song title on the soundtrack that was released like a month beforehand told you that.
Well, not even that. They released the book, and that's where I'm like, how is everybody bitching about the soundtrack? I read the novel already. I was more upset with the movie because the book is actually better.
Yeah.
There's like whole bits in the book that aren't in the movie that kind of set things up that you're like, okay, that makes a little more sense now. Like even Anakin's bit, because like they show a whole nother race that's not in the movie. He wrecks a pod racer. And Sebulba not Sebulba, what's his face? The guy who owns him, Watto gets all pissed off at him and shit because he wrecked this racer. He's not even worried about him. You know, that's the kind of the whole joke. But like, yeah. Anyway, moving on here, we got some other stuff to talk about. We got some super chats. So let's see what you guys are saying. Joe Pat 87 says in $1.99 says, and Sony officially blew Columbia's Centennial. I agree. Like, what are they doing? They should have had. Like Ghostbusters, for instance, you could have spent all of May re-releasing the first 3 films into theaters with some fanfare, and then June 7th for the 40th anniversary and the 100th of Ghostbusters and the 100th anniversary of the studio, dropped Ghostbusters Frozen Empire in theaters and rock June until fucking Deadpool came out, right? I mean, I don't understand putting it in between Dune and Kong, and that's killing its box office. Well, regardless of what you may, if you've seen the film, if you like it or not, you'll know. But I mean, I just think there's no real incentive for people to want to go see it when they've got a lot of other choices. Pinochet's Helicopter Tours sends in a member a member milestone for 31 months. Thank you.
Hey.
We got Pinochet here again, who says with $5, I know not everyone was glued to the Depp trial.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it at work as it was a great distraction, but him not returning to Pirates of the Caribbean should be no surprise. Well, we're about to get into that actually, so hold that thought, Scribe. Joe Pat 87 sends in $1.99, says Ghostbusters is also expected to drop 65% in week 2. I'm not surprised with Kong X Godzilla coming out this week. Of course, it's going to take a dump. But on that note, speaking of taking dumps, let's get on to that pirate news. Because this is kind of something that basically put a nail in the coffin of whether or not Johnny Depp was coming back in any way, shape, or form to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. And it sounded like you wanted to say something, Scribe, right off the bat, if you want to.
Oh, I was going to say that as far as the trial was concerned, I think Johnny Depp's reputation was entirely salvaged by that trial. I mean, whatever bad notions there might have been about him after Amber Heard's performance, there was just no way you could not feel like the guy got railroaded. So the idea that the trial did him in for Pirates, I'd be surprised if that was it, but you never know what executives are going to do. But as far as the public was concerned, I'd be surprised if that was the motivation.
No, I compared his trial to the OJ trial. I mean, I know it's not the same thing. I'm not trying to compare like the death of somebody to, but I mean, just the way that everybody was focused on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in a few years from now, we'll all remember where we were when we heard the verdict. You know what I mean? Kind of like the same thing. I still remember where I was when I heard the verdict for the OJ trial. I was sitting in the office waiting to talk to the principal because I was in trouble.
Oh, we were watching it on TV. The teacher rolled in the TV on.
Oh yeah, they had it in other places.
But, yeah.
But I was sitting in the office, and what happened was I don't even remember. This is the thing is I don't even remember what I was in trouble for. Probably just mouthing off to the teacher. But it just so happened that was the time that the trial was coming to an end, and they had it on. They had it on a television all the time in the library and in the commissary or whatever you want to call it, the lunchroom. So like we had it for our spare time to watch, but they wouldn't let us watch it in class. But when the verdict was coming down, they actually pulled the TV into the office and put the little microphone speaker up to the TV so everybody could hear the verdict. And I'm sitting there watching this and them doing this while it happened. That's how I remember it all. It was crazy, and it was the not guilty thing, and it was like, are you shitting me?
I knew he would be not guilty.
I did too, but it was like I didn't think it would. It was kind of like one of those things where it's like, they might not, but he's guilty. Like, how can they not? You know what I mean? It was like one of those things where you just kind of like your brain just can't compute how both could be.
Not to get too off track, but the best theory I ever heard about the OJ Simpson verdict was the police framed a guilty man, and that's what happened.
Well, I think it's just more so they dug into the fact that one guy happened to say a few racist things.
No, but they also made a lot of boo-boos. Like they didn't store the evidence properly. They forgot to like put the thing in the refrigerator. Wow. Stuff that's like if you're such an amateur, if you're on a high-profile trial like this, can't do the ABCs of like basic forensics, storing stuff in the refrigerator, then you don't deserve to win the case.
Well, not just that. You had Johnny Cochran, and Johnny Cochran can make you believe anything.
Right. The
right.
Chewbacca
and he
defense.
sold exactly, and that's the whole point of that joke, right? Is that he sold like nobody else has been able to sell as well as he did. How DNA evidence could be such a fugazi thing. It's like, no, dude, that's not how that works. But he made those people believe it, and he said it in a way that nobody could object him, right? Like he was a smart motherfucker. That's all I'm gonna say. But that being said, let's keep moving here because Pirates of the Caribbean producer, that would be Jerry Bruckheimer. Speaking of Bad Boys, same producer. We're going to reboot the franchise, which is easier to put together because you don't have to wait for certain actors. Wow. Does that sound like a shot across the bow or what?
Oh, of course.
No,
it's obviously a dig at
Okay,
Johnny.
let's get a little more context on this. Let's make sure that's really what we got here. He says he was asked about Pirates of the Caribbean and Top Gun. He said, it's hard to tell. Bruckheimer said, you don't know. You really don't know. You don't know how they come together. You just don't know. Because with Top Gun, you have an actor who is iconic and brilliant, and how many movies he does before he does Top Gun, can't tell you. But we're going to reboot Pirates. So that isn't easier to put together because you don't have to wait for certain actors. Why would you say all this and then say that? I mean, it really does feel like it's
Johnny Depp is an iconic actor. Like what? like he talks about Tom Cruise as being an iconic and brilliant, and then he just doesn't mention. And what's Johnny Depp doing right now that's got him so busy he can't do Pirates? Like I don't know. But
you want my interpretation of this, guys, or do you guys each have your own?
Oh, he probably wants too much money. He probably wants too much money.
He wants money, and he's also still holding a grudge for what they did to him. So he's stringing them along, asking for a ton of money and a bunch of crap that they don't want to give him. And they just said, you know what? We didn't even want him here. F him.
Could be. CC, anybody else? Nick?
I've seen the first two, and I kind of quit on the third. So I don't have a really good feeling about the franchise to begin with. I'd love to think that maybe he doesn't want to get into a bad movie. I mean, if I'm giving him the most possible credit here, but
even before the ideology became such a hyper point of conversation in this sphere, I saw 1 through 3. 1, I was absolutely over the moon about the day one in theaters. I saw 2 day one theaters, slightly disappointed, but didn't really exactly hate it. Then I saw a third one. I'm like, fuck this. I just don't see the point. Even if you put all that aside, I don't see the point in needing another movie. This is like, and from people who I know who've seen 4 and 5, I think they're called On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales. I have not heard anyone say anything about being comparable to 1 and 2. That's not really a high watermark, and I don't see why Johnny Depp will want to do this. I mean, it's not going to help his career. It's just milking the franchise. That's all that is. Even if you take out the Amber Heard stigma, he has better ways of getting his career back on track. This is not one of them.
Well, my theory is, I think y'all are kind of barking up the right tree. And this is just a theory, speculation. I have no inside information to go on with this. Because the thing is it felt like Jerry was on his side. It felt like Jerry was like one of the few people fighting for him. He did not publicly go out and shame him. I think even when he was asked not too long after the trial about it, he kind of hinted that they were going to try to work something out. And then we got rumors, and I believe WW Pro and a few other people had put out there that they had discussed another film with Johnny. And I think you guys are right. I think no matter what the money was, he just was not interested, whatever it was at the end of the day. And he was being difficult about it, whether he was holding out for more money, asking for way too much, whatever the deal was. I think the reason Jerry said this, and I'm not sticking up for Jerry here, I'm just giving you my observation, because I think both parties just hit an impasse. But I think Jerry feels a little burned because he did kind of probably fight for Johnny, I bet. And when you fight for somebody like that and they probably just kind of go, well, no, I'm just done. And you feel a little burnt. But at the same time, I completely understand where Johnny's coming from too. Why the fuck would you go work for these people when they publicly shamed you? Right.
Well, and also they're even if he had been effectively, let's just say for brevity's sake, they was effectively exonerated during the trial. The role itself is now so attached to that era of his life, maybe he doesn't even want to be associated with it for psychological reasons.
Which is weird, because I thought if anything that he would come back to it just because he loved the character if they offered him enough money. But I just think you're right. He might be past it at this point, maybe.
They could have made one movie and maybe made it better than the recent installments and say that it's the final movie with Johnny Depp, the final one. And really built it up, brought back maybe Orlando Bloom and what's her face, Keira Knightley. Add anybody that's been through any of these installments. You bring them back. You do one big movie, the final chapter. It could have been okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, from a business perspective, it would have made money, and he could have gotten a really good deal out of it. But
how does this reboot not become Pirates of the Caribbean 2016? Because without a handoff movie, without Jack Sparrow, giving his hat to a new person or something, and Indiana Jones quasi, it just becomes like it's going to be a shadow of its former self. Everybody's going to know. It's like, oh, you know, that history before doesn't count, and we're just starting over fresh. It just, I don't think.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. And then you have the term reboot, right?
Mhm.
And we've already gotten a reboot of Haunted Mansion, right? Is that the direction we're talking a reboot here? Are we still hung up on the? Are we still hung up on the daughter of Jack Sparrow, like they were going to do with Margot Robbie, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing. Are they going to let go of the old and start with something completely fresh and new, or are they? What are they doing here? Like, I don't honestly. I think Pirates of the Caribbean is Johnny Depp, and it is a thing of its time, and it will not be recaptured. And this goes along with what Andre was saying earlier too. Like, you're already, we're hitting a point where we're starting to hit stuff that's getting rebooted that was, you know, in those eras past us now.
Mhm.
Like, we're looking at Harry Potter, Twilight, right? These things are already on the palette, or on the, not palette, on the plate for the future to be, you know, they're coming down the road.
Mhm.
I mean, so
They're really playing with fire with this one, Tom, because once again, like, it was one of those things. It's kind of like when we were talking about how, like, when you saw one image of the crow, you knew that was a crow. You could see that one image of Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow, and people knew right away that's Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean. Whether they were a fan or not, they knew. It really was those things. Even you know, if I put my opinions aside of the sequels, the fact is that character became so synonymous with the role. It was one of those things where he would dress up as the character
Yeah.
for like Make-A-Wish Foundation, show up at hospitals. So he made that character up like an extension of his life, even outside of the movies. Like that.
well,
is
that's where
something
I was curious if
they're
he
not
might
gonna
actually
ever
change his
recapture.
mind. I thought just maybe, yeah, I know he said the whole like 300 some million dollars and a bunch of alpacas deal, but
Mm-hmm.
like he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood for the one of the last ones.
Yes.
So I mean, all they had to do is probably beat that offer, and I think he would have probably done it if he had wanted to do it. I think this is the answer: is he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he's
I think
definitely
you guys are on
over
the
it.
nail there. Yeah. And if Jerry's upset about it, I understand too. Like, I understand where Jerry's coming from in this situation too, because he did kind of go to bat for him. He did do the deposition shit for his trial and all that shit, and he didn't say anything negative about Johnny. In fact, I think I think if I remember correctly, I'm a little fuzzy now because it's been over a year or whatever since the trial, year and a half, 2 years now almost, whatever it is. You know, he even said that he even poo-pooed a lot of the stuff that Amber was trying to claim about him, right? About him being late to the set and all that other shit and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I understand both parties. It's sad, but you know what? Maybe it's just time to move the fuck on. And hopefully the next one does flop to teach him a lesson. So
Oh, they won't learn the lesson, even if it does flop. If they're just gonna reboot it again. I mean,
mhm.
it seems like right now, especially with Disney, they don't want to let go of anything, and they'll say, "Oh, but our originals are flopping." Do you see the promotion that they put into originals? Nowhere near the same that they do into their sequels. That
They
don't
have
need
no
sequels or
originals
reboots.
anymore.
Well, I'm just saying with some of the ones that they're putting on the Pixar side of things, they
Yeah,
were
well,
trying to. They didn't give them anywhere near the push that they're giving their 800 sequels.
well, no, and I always make the
Anywhere
point.
near.
And I always make the point. They used to have a live action division that used to make all kinds of stuff. And now all they do is make live action versions of their animated films.
Yep. Yeah.
That's it. Like, they don't make anything else.
No, you're right.
When's the last time we had a Herbie movie?
Yeah.
Or a Honey I Shrunk the Kids movie? Or a, you know, I don't mean those specifically, but I mean anything like that, you know, like a Cool Runnings or anything. They haven't done those in years.
No, not at all. That's unfortunate, and they're missing an entire generation. And I'm not going to blame it on stuff like video games and TikTok. I mean, yeah, sure. In an ideal world, would you probably lose maybe a small percentage of that audience to some of those things, whether it's video games or specific social media platforms? Sure. But could they all coexist at the same time if you try to maintain quality? I truly do believe so. But they are doing this to themselves, giving this current generation saying you have nothing to call your own. I've said as many times on there. A lot of these generations, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, they could say during this decade we had this. The 2010s and onwards, it's sequel, reboot, sequel, reboot, sequel, reboot, remake. They're like,
Yeah.
and that's why is someone who's going to get into movies as a youngin' like, okay, I have nothing to say, hey, this is my thing when I grow up. I don't blame them. You're kind of validating a youngin's argument to not want to get into newer movies.
I do see it in video games a bit too. It's that TikTok, that assumption of a short attention span, where instead of building complex video games, and it's not to say there aren't great video games still, but that design choice to oversimplify everything as much as possible so that people can play in 10 or 15-minute chunks, or it's like 1 hour chunks at the most. You no longer get that video, that experience of, well, you need to sit down for a few hours and enjoy this.
Yeah, they're dumbing everything down, and that takes away the challenge for those who are actually invested in something, whether it's a video game or a regular game, something people, or even a story that gave you something to think about from a movie or a comic. Everything is across the board just dumbed down so they can just move on to the next thing and to the next thing and next thing. Yeah, I do see that pattern now that you mentioned like that, CC. I definitely see that.
Well, speaking of moving on, go ahead.
Obviously, I got the glass half full. I do think the younger generation is bound, because there's always a swinging pendulum, right? Like Five Nights at Freddy's is very, very popular with the younger generation, and that's an animatronic based thing.
But that's their own thing, right?
And games like Elden Ring definitely ask you to devote time to it, right? They're not easy. It's complex.
Well, again,
the original
successful. Right?
Two original ideas, though, right? Like, that's where I think the movie did well, right? Because it's not, even though it's an adaptation of a game, it's not a reboot, remake, sequel to something else that existed before. It's their own damn thing.
Yeah, and
that's what these kids want.
And they deserve more of that, because the problem is your counters to that, CC, are all absolutely valid. The issue with that counter is that they're the exception. They're not the expectation. We need more of this. Should be the standard, not, okay, here's this one. So yeah, that's 3 or 4 out of hundreds to thousands. They deserve a whole generation's worth of that stuff. And I'm happy for those who like their Elden Rings, their Five Nights at Freddy's. That's great, but they deserve far more for that. It shouldn't be fewer and far between. And yes, our decades, 70s, 80s, 90s,
well, and games are the same thing, right? CC, they're relying too much on older properties and older names too, right?
There was some news about Larian Studios, who is like, Larian Studios is one of those exceptions, right? They're one of those studios who's delivered great content time over time. They haven't fallen from grace yet, and they made a recent decision. It was in the news. They're not going to do any DLC. There's no paid content for Baldur's Gate 3. They're done with the game. It's a complete game. They're moving on from it, and they said, we want to do some, like they were thinking about doing DLC, right? And then the head of the company looked around and said, well, we're just going through the motions, where our heart's not really in it. We want to do something completely new. We want to move on and create something original. So they brought the company away from Baldur's Gate 3, and now they're going to do something completely new. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but that kind of just blew me away to hear that kind of news for once.
That's
where
nice.
It's like,
yeah,
they could have just kept tapping into the Baldur's Gate franchise, which they had a ton of success with, right? They could have, chonked out the DLC, gotten all the money for that. They could have done Baldur's Gate 4. They could have chased all that and done it half-heartedly, but they wanted to do something creative and new instead, and they're actually going to chase that. It's and all the success. I hope they succeed, and I think they will. I hope they lead by example.
Yeah, I hope they see it through to the end and actually do that, because we need more that's out there, whether it's from movies, games, comics, tabletop, whatever. People deserve more good things, and audiences are not dumb. People want things that can really challenge them and get them to think. So let's see.
Well, speaking of moving on, let's get into some of these super chats and move along. Jason Webster sends with Australian 5. Today, people dissect and analyze trailers so minutely. It's like they're forensics performing an autopsy or detecting and examining a crime scene. Oh, yeah, especially with the more fan-oriented stuff like Star Wars and all that stuff. And that used to be part of the fun, But at the same time, you got to hold a little bit back for the audience. I'm getting to the point now where it seems like, especially when we get trailers like this, it's like I'm more worried about, so now we're seeing all the best parts. basically. Nothing good is going to be left, especially when you're giving us stuff like that last joke, which falls kind of flat. It's like, if that's all you got, then yeah, we're in trouble. Pino says Helicopter Tour sends in 2 and says, in the trial, he stated to the world, never Disney. Oh, yes, he did. Rich sends in 10 and says Johnny Depp probably doesn't want to give the studio the chance to get out of the crap storm they got themselves in by getting the MCU treatment. Being a side character ruined for diversity hire. Yeah, I mean, especially if he's not going to be the star of the film, that could be. I see what you're saying, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as like the company itself, I don't think Johnny is like all that worried or up to speed on the financials or the situation they're in or the Nelson Peltz business or any of that kind of stuff. I think this is a very personal thing for him at this point, and obviously so. But speaking of personal, somebody who doesn't take things too personal is Ernie Hudson, especially when it comes to pay disparity. He had a couple of things to say here in a quick interview about this and the 2016 remake. So let me read the quote for you guys. This comes from an interview with The Independent in the UK. I'm assuming it was probably at the UK premiere of Ghostbusters or something like that. He says, being a person of African descent anywhere in the world, we're just because he was asked, about does he think the pay disparity in Hollywood because of racism? I should have set that up better. Sorry. Says, being a part of the African American descent anywhere in the world, we're all just learning how to live together and get along together and realize that we're all connected. And it's very tempting sometimes to blame anything that doesn't work in your life on racism. But there are a lot of things that play into it. It's not quite that simple. And then he brings up in response, for those who don't know, Eddie Murphy was meant to play the role initially, but he took Beverly Hills Cop instead. At which point Ernie got the role. He says we can say it's a racial thing, but I think if Eddie Murphy had played the role I played, he would have been paid very well. I would think the studios are in the business of making money and they pay what they feel they have to. And I think he's right. Not only that, if we just know that when Eddie was a part of the film, his character was in the film a lot more. And when he didn't sign on, they moved a lot of Winston stuff to the latter part of the script and gave a lot of the funnier bits to Bill, since that was the whole thing, is they're trying to build up Bill. So it had less to do with anything racial and more to do with building up their star. And then you can call him whatever you want, but Sigourney Weaver also gets second billing in that movie. So take that as you will. And then he was asked about the reboot from 2016, directed by Paul Feig. And he says, look, I'm a fan of Paul Feig, so I have nothing negative to say about him. Other than that, I don't quite understand why you do a reboot. You know what I mean? Just make another movie. Yep. So yeah,
that's what the rest of us are saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was kind of refreshing to hear from somebody in Hollywood, especially somebody we respect as much as Ernie Hudson. So what's your guys' response to that? Let's start with you, Price.
He's always been, in my opinion, sort of like a class act. I don't remember him doing all this kind of weird stuff. And it doesn't surprise me that when he got asked these questions, he didn't do the usual 20-year-old blue-haired Hollywood thing, but he did the kind of...
He understands it's about meritocracy, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
He's a seasoned veteran. He's been working for a very long time. At the end of the day, Ghostbusters was a break for him. It wasn't like with Eddie Murphy. Exactly what he said. Eddie Murphy was a huge star. If he would have been in it, it would have been an Eddie Murphy movie. In this case, or at least a reunion of him and Dan Aykroyd after trading places. Whereas in this case, Ernie Hudson sort of got a big break here that he's been benefiting from that break for many years. And even if he felt that they weren't that nice to him then at the beginning, I think that he's benefited from this role and people like him in this role. And I think these answers are very classy, in my opinion.
Yeah, sorry, I had to let Sadie out. Go ahead, CC. What did you think about it?
It's great to hear someone make a veteran move. You know, they say a veteran move because you're experienced and you kind of know how it works. He's not playing the victim, and I don't think he has anything that he feels like he has to lose about it. You know, it's life. Sometimes life sucks. And sometimes, you do lose. And whether or not you actually are a victim in a certain circumstance, it doesn't mean that you play yourself as the victim, you pick yourself back up, you act like a pro, and you take that high road, and you end up winning as a result. You gain respect. He's gaining respect right here, and he will benefit from it. He's not moping. He was asked a loaded question, and he handled it quite tactfully. So
Yeah, I like that. A veteran move. I like that. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much echoing what you guys said. He had a very veteran, very professional take. It made sense, sounded like from a place of reason, and it wasn't the simple, boil it down to my victimhood complex that we hear from almost everyone in modern day years. So, and it's not surprising that a guy like him did that. I always kind of got that vibe from him, but it is still refreshing and nice to see. Or, I mean, man, Ernie Hudson's almost 80. Guys, and look at the guy to the right of him. The guy on the right of him looks like he's 80. But nope, it's Ernie Hudson who's almost 80. I think that phrase about black don't crack is very accurate. But shout out to Mr. Hudson for being classy about this. We need more of you. You are a gentleman and a scholar, sir.
Indeed. Scribe, take us home.
Well, I was curious about something as you guys are talking about his classiness and professionalism. Ernie Hudson is a working actor. This guy has not been unemployed since 1976. He has had a project or 2 or 7. 2013 was a busy year. I'm looking at his IMDb page. Every year since 1976, he has been employed in some production or another, or several. This guy
he's a very
is
steady actor. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a steady working actor. And so, pardon me, my phone is ringing. I'll be back in a minute. Sorry.
No, it's a good point though, right? Like a comment like this is why he keeps getting employed. If he took the other road, people will, oh, he's hard to get along with, to deal with. He's hard to work with. He's not hard to work with. He's easy to work with, right?
Dare I say he's a lot like Winston in real life. He's very reliable.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to say is that, and that's in just to enhance what Cece is saying, is that look at somebody like Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher came out, he battled the studios. He said that the CEO was terrible. He hates everybody. He's going to lead the charge. It's accountability over entertainment, blah, 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 blah. And today, I don't see people hiring him.
Hold on. Who's Ray Fisher?
Exactly.
Cryborg.
I remember now. No, honestly, I was being
I rest my case.
I knew he was
Nick.
being serious, but I had a shot.
To me, he's always Cryborg.
Yep.
That's what he's going to go down as, Cryborg. And when that whole thing happened, I said to myself, forget about who's right or wrong. If I was the head of a studio, I would never hire that guy.
Seriously.
No shit. And Ernie's done a lot of great films besides this, right? He's been in The Crow, Congo. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. He's been in a ton of stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's Ernie Hudson.
Well, all I was going to say is Sloan could be, so I can imagine Cryborg on it for like a jog, maybe like with his girlfriend. And she's probably like, oh, it's really nice out today. Much like the sun really gets that breeze. And he's just like, Walter Romano! Seriously.
I know, right? He probably screams that shit while he's having sex. I'm going to fuck you like Walter Romano. Fuck me.
And you know what's dumb? And this is something that I just have to say. I've always wanted to say this. Whoever is the manager of Ray Fisher, and they're his agents or whatever it is, what a terrible job they did. I think that at the point that even, let's say there were some whispers and they said, here's your own movie, you'll be Cryborg in your own movie, and they offered him all this money and stuff. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, no problem. Yes, it was a misunderstanding. I'd love to do this stupid movie and take all this money. Instead, he's like, nope, I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than that. And no, you're not bigger than that. You just seem like a guy that I would never want him to work. And no matter what company I had, I'd never hire him for anything.
Yeah, no, you're back, Scribe. Oh, go ahead, CC.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that Ernie Hudson probably got treated poorly at some point over his career.
Oh, right? Yeah, I'm sure.
But that's not the story. You know, he acts with discipline and respect. He earns the respect of those around him. He's easy to work with, and if he got, treated poorly, then his peers will deal with it for him. I'm sure that he probably, he came away on top. Clearly, he has, because he's still working. He still has he has a storied and excellent working actor career on his side, right?
Just a side thing to that notion. I know this is a little bit off to the side, but these stories I keep hearing all the time about people complaining about experiences they had with actors on the set and everything. Like we just had to think about in the last few days of like Rebel Wilson putting out a book and talking about, not mentioning by name or anything, but just saying, oh, somebody treated me really bad on set or whatever. I mean, short of like physical violence or something, I keep the professional stuff. I don't know, just like it's not something you gossip about, or especially in the industry. It's like, because I mean, and just for a sort of a self-preservation kind of deal, it's like if you start gossiping about what happened on the set and bad mouthing people or telling one side of the story, are people going to want to work with you on the off chance you're just going to like dish about them on the side? So
exactly, like, did they even address it to them personally? That's another thing I think that bothers a lot of people too.
Yeah, you deal with something. Yeah, you take somebody aside away from it. It's sort of like questioning the captain's orders in front of the crew or something.
Mhm.
You just don't do it. You don't do it. If you have a concern, you take it off to the side. You maintain a professional relationship and everything else. And so,
Well-
like you were saying, Ernie Hudson might have some war stories of this, that, or the other, but the guy never stopped working. And my sense of him, and I realize the characters you play aren't necessarily a reflection of the person, but like when my first experience with Ernie Hudson was Ghostbusters, and when Winston showed up, I thought he was the funniest thing there, because it was like he was the everyman. He grounded the whole thing, and I was just like, I think I'm Winston.
Right. Well, yeah, he kind of takes over for Bill Murray at that point as our surrogate.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, and as far as like, talking about, like, obviously if it's something enough to get law involved, then get the law involved, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
but like
I mean,
everything
if you
else,
have
yeah, I
Alec
agree with
Baldwin,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, be a professional about it, right? Like, because here's the thing: 9 times out of 10, that other person is probably completely oblivious to what you're seeing, right? And you're going to get a better response out of them if you take them aside and go, "Hey, look, I didn't like how you acted this situation, blah 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 blah. It made me feel like this, or da 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 da." Then if you actually go and blast it out there in a book, regardless if you name names, right? Like, because like at that point, then you're just putting the other person in, a weird position to even have to deny it, right? Or you're like totally blindsiding them because they're just like, well, and then I've been in situations like that before. Whether or not I believe that person felt that way or not, that's not, nothing to do with this. But it's like, dude, take it up with me first before you go fucking put it in a goddamn book somewhere. Maybe we could have worked this shit out, because now you're just creating an enemy, right? And it's so stupid. Kind of like when they canceled Bill Murray, and it's like, what did you end up accomplishing with that whole thing other than getting a bunch of people unemployed because you got a movie canceled?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too, because we're talking about Ghostbusters, is when Bill Murray purportedly said some off-color joke on the set, and some nobody celebrity went on Instagram or something and just like bitching about everything. Do you want to keep working in this town?
It was,
what are you doing?
Keke Palmer, and in fact, it had nothing to do with her, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's like, why the fuck are you publicly canceling this, man? Good job, bitch. You just everybody lost their job just because of you. Because you had to go out and cock off and say you weren't going to work with him anymore for whatever reason, even though the other individual, as far as we know, if they had a problem, they would have said something about it. And I don't even know if I believe the story that's out there, because that came, I think, like secondhand through, like, I don't know if it was Matt Maloney or one of those other guys, which, I mean, yeah, they're pretty good at all their reporting, but look, I don't even know if it was that bad, because if it was that bad, don't you think they'd have gotten the law involved with the Me Too situation? Like, Jesus Christ.
It was
probably made
a
some
prank.
stupid fucking joke is what it was.
It was an on-set prank that probably back in the day everybody would have laughed and clapped, and now with all the sensitive weirdos, he just didn't realize that he's surrounded by a bunch of jerk-offs that can't take a joke. Sorry.
And that's kind of the vibe I got from it, totally, like, basically. And he apologized publicly and all this other shit. And it's like, good. You just made Bill Murray apologize publicly, and you lost everybody a job, because clearly he was the only reason that movie was getting made. Let's be real here, because the studio was going to side with Keke, and they were going to fire his ass, because I think they did fire his ass. And then at that point, I bet you a bunch of their investors pulled out.
Oh,
like,
he was
now, wait a minute here.
Yeah, he was probably an essential element to the production. There was probably something in
Exactly.
there was like, yeah, public relation wise, they couldn't leave him on, but then contractually speaking, if he's gone, they can't do the production or
Oh, I can tell you exactly what
Um,
happened. Is that movie was a smaller production. It probably had outside money, and
Mhm.
that outside money was contingent on the fact that they thought they were getting a Bill Murray movie.
right.
And when Bill Murray was no longer part of the movie, like, well, we didn't sign up for no Kiki Palmer movie. Bye, we're gone.
You know,
There goes the money. And
the
this
the
was supposed to
cla-
be what's his face's directorial debut too. That one comedian. But anyway, go ahead, Scrat.
oh, I was going to say, if you want to see a classy criticism of a fellow actor, like the most professional criticism of a fellow actor in public that you can look for, so you can find it on YouTube. Christopher Reeve talking about Marlon Brando in relation to Superman, because like he's very like Letterman asks him about what it was like working with Marlon Brando, and Reeve is like very hesitant. He's like, well, I don't want to speak badly or cause drama or anything, but, and then he just talks about, I mean, like if you want to take down another actor, that's probably the most classy way you could do it and not come across as a whiny bitch. And that's the only time I've ever seen an actor like really do that in a way that sounded productive while also being a little deprecating. So anyway, just a side thing.
Well,
Who the hell's Kiki Palmer anyway? I still don't know who the hell
she's
she is.
actually been around for a while, but that's just
Yeah.
it. She's never really gained any notoriety.
Yeah.
And I think she used this as some kind of way to get out there, get her name out there, and I don't think it did it the way she wanted it to.
Wasn't it on Aziz Ansari that was already in hot water for a fake Me Too to begin with?
And isn't he the
No,
one that
that's
was directing this?
Yeah, this was his get out of jail thing, and then it became a double
That was what I was
whammy.
trying to think of. Yeah, so like you have the situation where it was this little comedy that was already, like you said, on Aziz Ansari's little like, we're gonna give you this shot, and you had Bill Murray and whatever in the movie, and I guarantee you that's where all the money came from. Because they thought they were getting a Bill Murray movie.
Yeah, after his Me Too thing, he couldn't let a Me Too accusation go by without. Oh God, that sucks.
And the truth
It
is,
wasn't even really a Me Too accusation
No.
necessarily, but yeah.
his Me Too is like the most bogus, in my opinion, out of all the ones that came forward. His was the most nonsense bogus one. I'm not saying this is, as a big fan of his comedy or anything he does. It's not that I even especially like his humor or whatever it is. I think he's just okay. But just like objectively reading that Me Too story that he had is one of the biggest bogus nonsense things that I've ever seen. And if he wasn't such again, I sound like an asshole now. If he had a little more kind of like a backbone, I don't know how to explain it, he would have just gone out and put his foot down, which is what he needed to do. Instead, he hid inside his apartment for like 2 years because he was so ashamed. And I don't even understand why. He just acted so stupid. Sorry, that's my opinion.
No, I watched the first season of that show that was on Netflix. When the Me Too stuff came out about him, I was like, this is like an episode from the show I just watched. It's that ridiculous. It's not true to life.
And by the way, Cece, they only agreed to let him continue to do the show if you wouldn't see him on camera. So he had to make it about LGB characters, and then you never see him on his own show again, which I've never seen. I have never seen anything like what happened to that guy. That is the wackiest stuff. And then at the end of this movie with Bill Murray, that was like the cherry on the icing.
Well, I'll tell you why he hid in his apartment and everything, because he was a true believer. He was a feminist. He was a declared, believe all women guy prior to all that.
Right.
And so for him to be accused of it and to be held raked over the coals, if he just marched out there like nothing ever happened, it wouldn't do. I mean, and he might be a true believer for all I know. He might not have just been doing some lip service or something. He might have thought of himself as a dyed-in-the-wool, pink-haired feminist or something. And that probably is it. He had to do some kind of atonement, some kind of like struggle session for a couple of years before he was allowed to come back out again.
I personally would have never handled it that way. I think that he is handling,
No.
if you write a book about how not to handle this type of crisis, I would throw him in there along with Tiger Woods when that whole thing happened with his mistresses. Those are like the type of situations where completely mishandled. If you're Tiger Woods and you got like $1 billion and there's a bunch of ladies that said that you spent the night with them, you just do a press conference, you bring out some trophies and said, yeah, I spent some time with the ladies. I'll see you later. And that would have been it. Nobody would have said anything anymore. And he was such a miserable bum. He's never recovered. He's never recovered since that incident.
There's a lot to that story too. Like he definitely injured himself physically in car accidents that may have been of his own doing, right? That didn't help him.
No, and it's nothing personal against Tiger Woods, of course.
No, but I feel like he probably those physical injuries probably came as a result of his mental state to begin with, which was related to the way he handled that situation. As you
before
say.
that incident, every 5 minutes he'd win a tournament. Since that incident, once in 20 years or something, he won like one trophy.
Well, he won one more big tournament, right?
Right, won. They kind of he managed to, in like decades, he managed to gather all of his energy in like one thing he won. But considering everything he was before that incident with all the ladies, which by the way was consensual, I don't know.
You're on to something, because meanwhile you got William Shatner, who could still play a late age dad. Like the guy looks like he's 60, but he's 93.
You know what Tiger Woods needs to do now?
If I'm being fair, maybe 70. He doesn't look a day over 70.
He looks younger than his age.
Not up there.
You know what Tiger Woods needs to do now?
Man's not apologizing for getting grinded on.
Here's what Tiger Woods needs to do now to reboot his career. He needs to. We're talking about reboots, and also calling back to earlier in the show. Tiger Woods should reboot Dorf. He should come out playing a midget and start doing golf stuff. Dorf Golf starring Tiger Woods.
A little person.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, a fake little person.
Tiger Woods.
So, yeah.
He could guest in Happy Gilmore too. That'd be all right.
If he does,
he will.
That's he probably will. What are they going to do? What are they going to? Do you think they'll CGI resurrect Bob Barker? Bring his
They're going to do it somewhere.
Egon. Yeah.
Maybe
I'd be more worried
archive
about what
footage.
they would do with what's his face, Happy or not Happy? What the hell is his name?
Shooter McGavin.
No. He's going to be in it.
Yeah.
Carl Weathers, who just passed away. What was his name in it?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What the hell was his name in the movie? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember. I want to say Smitty, but I don't think it was Smitty.
No, it was something like Happy though. It was something very.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But anyway,
Something-
it's been
yeah,
like a year since I watched it. Yeah.
Chubbs.
Chubbs, that's right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really short name. Yeah, I knew it was a nickname. Like,
Well, they were probably planning on having him there when they were like planning this movie. Now they got to rewrite the thing to not have him there. 'Cause he
Maybe.
passed away. Yeah.
maybe not.
But
Maybe.
I bet he was part of the plan beforehand.
Even if he was, it was probably just a cameo anyway because he died. So he'd just be a ghost. Or
Well, no,
whatever.
not to say that they already filmed anything. Just that when they were
No,
this
I
project
know,
plan,
but I
yeah.
mean, even if they did, it was just probably just a cameo. Was my point.
Probably, yeah.
But anyhow.
Or Happy receives a video from Chubbs, who's already died, that says you need to clear my name.
I was gonna say he's sending us messages from the dead. Somebody called it Ghostbusters.
Oh,
If you're dead, what do you really care about your name now?
Right? That's where I was like, the Bad Boys 4. I'm just kind of like, I mean, I get it. They're supposedly being set up too, but it's like,
if
in the
he had
first place,
kids, like if you
Maybe.
wanted to make sure your family knew that you weren't a bad, like if you had that kind of connection, maybe. Yeah.
It's flimsy. It's a flimsy
It's
script.
flimsy.
I can
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
tell.
yeah, we'll have to wait and see though. I don't see the box office doing too well. Let's see what you guys are talking out in the chat, and we'll get out of here. Jason Webster sends in an Australian $5. Says Tears for Fears song parody. Shout, get her out. Leslie Headland is a showrunner we can do without. Come on, Iger, we're talking to you. Come on. Hope I did that justice. Thank you for that, Jason. And he sends another $2. It's coming soon. Ray Fisher in The Crying Game Part 2. Oh, they just remake it.
Yeah.
And he does know all there is to know about the Cryboard game.
Womp womp.
That is true. Thank you, Jason, and thank you all for the patronage and watching the show with us. And we appreciate you being here. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd be talking to ourselves. But I do enjoy the company of these men, such as Nick Weiser. You got a show coming up here in a little bit. Yup, we're going to talk about a raw deal.
We're gonna have a raw deal about this movie, one of my lesser known ones, but still worthy nonetheless. It's been good.
Yeah.
Shut up! I'll kill you.
I kill you. Remember that I said I kill you last? I lied.
I love. But yeah, talk to Tuesday in under 40 minutes actually too.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
won't be long from now. You can have a slice of pizza, you can have a piss break, and then before you know it, the show's gonna be rolling on over. It's gonna be great, and it'll be nice to talk an Arnie movie, and then before that, that'll be the one because the next month after that is gonna be Burt Reynolds month. So it's gonna be fun times ahead, man. It was a good show today. It's been a real good show today. Good hanging out with the guys. Catch up. It was nice to have some good things like the Ernie Hudsons of the world and make fun of the Has Boys trailer. So always good times here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm
Tom.
pretty sure we're doing at least one movie, but we got to do another one that I haven't heard you specify yet. I think you did maybe, but
Which one?
I think I broke his nose. I think he broke his fucking nose. I think he broke his fucking nose. He broke his fucking nose. I told you I broke his fucking nose. Longest yard.
Yes. No, you know, hey, we can do that one just because you want to. How about that?
Oh, my fucking nose.
That'll be your recommendation because when we did our meet, we said we'll leave one for Tom to decide on.
Well, you got to do the longest yard, man.
Not only will we do the longest yard, we'll kick off with it.
That's probably his best, like performance-wise, other than maybe Deliverance. Maybe I don't know.
Well, we are doing Deliverance as well, and we're also doing Smokey and the Bandit, and we have another one we're doing as well. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be an awesome month of April.
Eastbound and down.
I almost think I need to like trim off my lemminess just so I can have a mustache.
We gonna do what they say can't be done. Bert could rock a stash.
Oh God, yeah. That man is a mustache, and our lives are so much better for it.
Absolutely. Boogie Nights. I didn't care for Boogie Nights as much. I did think it was funny in Striptease though.
Oh, I see. I haven't. It's been so long since I've seen Striptease. Man, I was for.
What is it you got all over yourself? Vaseline. Like the way it squishes between my toes.
Oh, it bring back memories.
Anyway, Nick's got that coming up in a little bit. That'll actually redirect you guys over to there. Scribbles, what you got going on?
Well, I got a busy Thursday coming up at noon Pacific time, or 3 p.m. Eastern, pardon me, or it's Central. Trying to get everything right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm interviewing Gary Kissel, comic book artist and creator.
Actor Geary?
Yep, to talk to him about his career and his project Vindicated Incorporated, which is currently got a campaign going on.
Nice.
So interview him on my sometimes interview series called Familiar with the Matter. And then later that night on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I got my usual weekly TED Excellence show where I look at TEDx or TED Talks and have TEDx bingo. I'm looking to have a co-pilot that night as well. I won't say who because I don't want to ruin it or write checks I can't cash, but it might be a familiar name to some people around here if things line up, but I will let people know when I can. So that's what I got going.
Excellent. Or TED Excellent, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
We got CCA as well. You got some Loki Oki coming on, but I know we're trying to think of maybe another day of doing
and we were talking about that. I mean, for now, this Friday will still be karaoke. Just keep an eye on the start time, whether it's 10 or 9 or 8 p.m. Pacific time. But sometime in the later stages of Friday evening, we'll sing karaoke as usual.
So what's changing? The karaoke or the Loki?
We're thinking about
if Loki doesn't have his show, then we usually go a little earlier. But yeah, we're also thinking about hitting another night during the week sometime too. We're just not sure what night yet
for karaoke.
We're discussing it because I like to get up early in the morning, like Culture Casino. That's why Culture's never on the show. He likes to be on the show, but he's always asleep when we start. And normally I would be asleep when we start too. So I'm trying to think of my own health. But for now, we're going on.
We might still do it on Friday, but it'd probably be before Loki Oki. So it'd be like Oki Loki. I don't know. We'll see. We're discussing it. We're talking about it. we'll be clear about it when we figure it out. For now, though, Friday night we'll be there.
Yeah.
And Price will be there as well. And what else you got going on, Price?
Well, at 10 p.m., I believe, there's a channel, a friend of mine, Diabolical Souls, and we're going to be doing, watching an episode, doing like a watch party for an episode of Scavenger's Reign. And then around midnight, I'm going to be doing that kind of late night thing that I sometimes do with my friend Dred Roberts on my live channel. So I'll try to post on Twitter or post on YouTube or whatever it is. And hopefully somebody will see that I'm doing it.
Cool. All right. And with that, I'll try to bop in for a bit tonight, Nick. I can't guarantee it tonight, but we'll try. Otherwise, you guys should see me on the morning show tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and each other. And always butter your popcorn. Always.
Stop eating my sesame cake. Stop eating my sesame cake! Mm-hmm.